All right. The A to Z Sports Big Orange Podcast. I am Charlie Burris. That is Zach Reagan. Wherever you listen throughout the world, thank you very much for listening to us. We talk everything Vols every week here on the Big Orange Podcast. And if you want to listen to that on the reg, go over the A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed on Apple or Spotify. When you get there, rate, review, but you got to make sure you subscribe, because if you do subscribe, you won't miss our shows when we drop them on Mondays, no matter what time on Monday those happen, because it's 12:30. It's Labor Day. So Zach and I just doing a middle of the day thing here, getting it out of the way. Good timing with Josh Heupel's press conference. We'll cover that. Some unfortunate news dropping in that one. But at Charlie_Burris, that's Zach TNT. Oh, and I didn't say YouTube, A to Z Sports Tennessee Volunteers. Go over to that YouTube channel and subscribe, but make sure you hit that notification bell, because then it won't matter when we go live on there. You will be notified if you hit the notification bell. So you can join in, be a part of the show. It's always a ton of fun commenting, going back and forth with everybody. At Charlie_Burris, at Zach TNT, at A to Z Sports, Facebook.com/A to Z Sports Nashville, and A to Z Sports.com. For everything Zach writes on the internet, Zach, you're going to have to write something unfortunate here. Josh Heupel dropping that Ricky Gibson III will be out for a, quote, extended period of time after the Syracuse game. And that news literally hit a second ago. We were just kind of digesting it, but what's up, man?
Yeah, I mean, pretty fun weekend for opening weekend of college football if you're a Tennessee fan. Cruise against Syracuse, Alabama lost. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than that. But the injuries certainly mounted during that game, both real and fake injuries. We saw both kinds throughout the game, on both sides a little bit, mostly Syracuse. But the real injuries for Tennessee there are definitely a concern coming out of that game. And Gibson wasn't the only one. There's a couple there, so that's just part of college football. It's unfortunate, but that's something every team's gonna have to deal with here.
It is. Everything is a marathon, and you gotta wade through this crap as it comes. And yeah, thankfully Ty Redmond is looking good, but we're gonna go through everything that happened in that game, including these injuries, because there was actually more injury news, not just Ricky Gibson. And we're gonna go through everything that happened in the game. We'll make a score prediction for ETSU. It's going to be a Tennessee win. I'll give you a heads up there. I'm spoiling my own show there. But, we'll give our actual score prediction, maybe talk about some that happened around the SEC, because some future games look a little easier. Maybe some look a little harder now. And so a very, very interesting weekend for Tennessee football. As you said, really enjoyable. Alabama loses, you win. Nico, I don't know that I'm taking joy in the fact that Nico looked terrible, but I'm taking joy in the fact that his dad's a complete idiot, and it was proved out. We are vindicated in that way. But, look, it is what it is. We were all hoping that would happen, and it did. But that's going to be the show today. So let's get right to it, Zach. Tennessee goes to Hotlanta. Please stop going and having neutral site games. This could have been a really fun home and home, and yet here we are. Just like in 1998, you could have gone to the Dome if they're in Syracuse and played, but whatever, that's fine. Danny Dollars needs those dollars. So you go, and obviously, I mean, he's the thumbnail of this show today. The first thing you got to talk about is Joey Aguilar and the way that he looked in this game. You win by 19, and in no small part due to the way that Joey Aguilar came in and played. And this guy, speaking of Nico, what is so poetic about it is he's not a superior athlete to Nico Iamaleava. I think nobody would dispute that. But he's a perfect fit for this offense. Now he's a fifth-year guy who overthrows a lot. And in your fifth year, if you're still overthrowing, kind of like Joe Milton, in your fifth year, if you're still overthrowing people, that's probably part of it. That's going to be part of the game with Joey. But I mean, the dude as advertised. Gunslinger, goes for it, decisive, makes the plays. When the play broke down and the touchdown to Star Thomas, I feel like that was the quintessential play that showed this guy is exactly what this offense needed in this spot. And that is serendipitous, and it's really great. But yeah, we can start there, Zach. What'd you think of Joey?
I agree. I thought he looked great. It wasn't perfect. He had some missed throws, really on the perimeter. That seemed to be his biggest problem, was when he was throwing to the perimeter, kind of to the flats out there, to the boundary. He just little off target, little high, little behind the receivers a couple times. A couple of those the receiver should have came down with. It's super early in the season, so you don't want to make too much of that. We'll see as they settle in if they get that under control a little better. Middle of the field, he was really good. Obviously, he hit the deep shot there to Braylon Staley. It was just a beautiful throw, perfect. Hit Staley in stride. That's a position that Tennessee really needs some production from. Is that slot position on those big plays? That's how they were able to flip games quickly in 22, and ultimately that's what helped put this game away kind of early. Even though Syracuse, credit to them, they fought, they hung around. It's a well coached team. Fran Brown, they play with some toughness there, and they weren't ever going to just lay down and give up. So that was I know the second half there with Tennessee's offense kind of stalled a bit in the third quarter, and it was just kind of that weird. I feel like even as a fan, you could feel that. You're watching that game, and you're just kind of like, all right, I'm not really on the edge of my seat anymore. I'm pretty sure Tennessee's going to win this game, and you kind of start cruising there as a fan, I think, and as a player. That they had a little bit of that they've got to. Can't do that in games. It's understandable, but you really can't do that in games because you never know when a team might be talented enough to come back. But as far as Aguilar, I thought he looked well. He threw the ball good, and most impressive to me was the way he operated the offense. There weren't in past years, last season in 23 with Joe Milton, we talked about how the offense didn't move as fast, and there was constantly, I felt like, a lot of, you get to the line of scrimmage, you're looking at the defense, and you're looking to the sideline to get the adjustment. Just that slowed the whole operation down. There's always a lot of looking to the sideline, kind of resetting the protections, or whatever the checks are there coming from the sideline, or timeouts. There was a lot of like first half timeouts in the past with Nico and Milton. You didn't see that. I don't think they called timeout once in this game, except maybe near the very end when they were kind of running the clock down and they were in the red zone and the play clock ran down, and they went ahead and they weren't really trying to get that play off. They called timeout. And other than that, I mean, the offense operated really well with Aguilar back there. And I think that's probably the biggest thing for me, because that shows me that he's processing things quickly, that he understands the concepts in this offense. And for the fact that he just showed up in June, and already has a lot of that stuff down better than what we've seen the past two quarterbacks at Tennessee that had been in the system for a couple of years. That's super encouraging to me, I think.
Without a doubt. It I don't know if, I guess lucky is the right word. That's really what happened here. Truly, is that you, by the kid's own doing, you ditched a kid that kind of from day one didn't exactly fit what was happening. I don't think totally understood the culture, couldn't really handle the pressure of everything here. And especially, I mean, his parents were just way out in left field doing whatever they were doing. And you brought in a guy that just obviously plays the way that he does, and that's really exciting. But then after the game just shows like real gratitude, and you can just tell he wants to be here. His teammates want to play with him. He is just kind of the exact type of thing that you could just hope for in that spot, because that's all we could really do when that whole Nico thing fell apart. Is just like, I mean, I hope whatever they find, I hope it's decent. I don't know. There's like two options out there. It was the two guys playing quarterback. That was during that Syracuse game. It was Steve Angeli, and it was Joey Aguilar, and you ended up with a guy. Angeli put up a really admirable effort. I do have to give him that. I think he would have been fine. But Aguilar, I think, is just, man, he just really was a great little puzzle piece that kind of clicked into place, I think. And yeah, he's going to have moments against much better teams where it's not going to be that easy. And that's fine. I mean, that Georgia game is going to be a bear, and I'm not expecting him to go in and blow the doors off of Georgia. But I would say after watching that performance, I feel better about that Georgia game than I did. I was hopeful going in because we had heard good things about what Joey was doing. But now you see how he really fits in with everything, and you go, maybe there's something there. Maybe the defense bows up and has a nice game, and all you need is 28 points to beat Georgia, and maybe this guy could could do that. I don't know, but that's fun and encouraging. I don't know if you had anything else on Joey. Obviously, a ton to cover here, Zach.
Yeah, that Georgia game is huge. You got to get through September with just one loss at the most, right? That Georgia game. So I don't feel like there's a ton of pressure on Aguilar and Tennessee to win that game, which sets up well for them. And then kind of go play free and just kind of see what happens in that game. If they lose it, the season's not over. Far from over. A lot of season left after that, and a lot of winnable games. But playing Syracuse, who's a good opponent, we'll see how they end up, playing this season. We've seen it with NC State last year and Virginia the year before. Sometimes these early season games can be misleading where the team you played wasn't as good as you thought they were. But the consensus seems to be that Syracuse, while they lost a lot of talent from last season, plays hard. I already said they really play hard for Fran Brown. They're a tough team. Seems like they're going to be a bit of a nuisance in the ACC. So playing a team like that in the first game of the season that gives you a defensive challenge, and then you kind of get to go clean some things up against ETSU this week before you go play Georgia, your first real challenge of the season. I think that sets up really well for Aguilar in this offense to make some huge strides from game one to game two and really to game three. I mean, that's where you're supposed to make your biggest jump, where you kind of get to go finally play a game against teams in different colored jerseys than you, and you really get to see how you stack up against an opponent. And then you get to go review that film, clean up the mistakes, see things that worked well for Aguilar, worked well for these running backs, which we'll get to the running backs in a second. There's lots of stuff to like there. The receivers, all that stuff, you get to see what worked against Syracuse and then build on that going into ETSU and Georgia. So the way the schedule sets up, I think, is a plus for Tennessee in this first month.
I agree completely. It's get a little health back in this kind of game. I mean, Jeff on YouTube, he says the amount of injuries during that game should be a major concern. We're going to cover all of that in just a minute. But yeah, you having the snoozer game in the second week is a good thing, the way that fell. Other comment, Honda says, it's great to see our quarterback have heart. He's willing to learn and wants to play team football. Absolutely. Steven says, definitely good with the upgrade we got at QB. Once they gel, this will be an exciting team. So thankful we have a great coach in Josh. Yeah. I mean, that makes me feel like it should only go up from here, because I almost feel like what happened offensively in this game impressed even the coaches. They've been seeing it in practice, and even they're kind of like, oh, all right, cool. Like this is working pretty nice. So although, yeah, there have been injuries, the most concerning on the defensive side of the ball, unfortunately. But in other spots on offense, Staley, obviously, awesome down bomb. I thought he looked good in general. Mike Matthews, when he actually caught the ball, had a couple throws that were high or a little off from Joey, but that I also thought he could have caught and he didn't. But when he got the ball in his hands, he's shifty, he's quick, great athlete. I mean, we knew he's a great athlete. And he looks good. The guy that everybody's talking about outside of Joey Aguilar, Star Thomas, man. What in the world? Because I made my preseason prediction. The way that it was kind of looking, I said, he's kind of the wily veteran in that room. I thought he would be the goal line sniper that we've seen in past seasons, where Tennessee gets all the way down to the goal line, they shift out the running back, and that guy gets all the touchdowns. But in fact, they just rotated guys out drive to drive, and Deshaun Bishop was your starter, Peyton Lewis, and then Star Thomas. But Star Thomas, I watched that game and I go, why is Deshaun Bishop and Star Thomas, why are they not on the field at the same time? Make Deshaun Thomas your running back, and then Star Thomas is an all-purpose. I mean, the best catch in the entire game came from Star Thomas on that broken down touchdown. And I was just extremely impressed. And another great, potentially, if this continues, if it continues like that, another great find out of the portal, and speaks to the fact that the running back committee is probably the way with Josh Heupel. You'd love to get a Savion Hyder and have that bell cow. But, I mean, dude, if it works, it works. What are you going to say? I just wish that they would show some more creativity, like having two of the guys on the field at the time. But there was also creativity. I don't know, kind of running on different things here, but the running backs really impressive, in particular, Thomas.
Yeah, I liked what you saw from the running backs for sure. Star Thomas was definitely a pleasant surprise. Didn't know what to expect out of that guy because you picked him up out of the portal, and really underrated yet just off the bat. You saw a few little wrinkles, that there was a delayed screen to a running back, which is something that we have not seen from a Tennessee offense at all under Josh Heupel, and I think we've all been begging for that. Those little checkdowns and screens to running backs can be super productive, in like a 2nd and 12 situation or something. You can throw that and get yourself in 3rd and manageable, or sneak in a first down. Be interesting to see how they use those guys moving forward. I think we probably didn't see what all this Tennessee offense has to offer because they didn't have to lay it all out there. So maybe we'll see some more creativity moving forward. I wouldn't expect too much against ETSU. Obviously, you're gonna try to play things pretty close to the vest there, and save anything you got up your sleeve for the Georgia game. But man, yeah, those running backs, I think that's a good setup. Having those 3 guys, you can keep everybody fresh deep into the season. You can withstand an injury if it happens to that room because you got nice depth there. You got some nice young guys behind those top 3 as well. So that's a position of strength, I feel like, moving forward for this Tennessee team. And then, from there, the running game doesn't excel without the offensive line. And I thought the offensive line played really well in the season opener. And that's without your starting right tackle. I mean, you had a late kind of curveball thrown at you where David Sanders gets banged up in practice last week and doesn't play Saturday. It's a surprise to everybody when he's not dressed out. You got to shuffle things around there. You got Jesse Perry that supposed to be playing guard, jumps over to right tackle. You move your left guard to right guard and Moe, and you got Umarov stepping in at left guard to make his first career start. I believe it's the first time that we've seen Tennessee start 2 offensive linemen that they signed out of high school with Umarov and Perry there. So they played really well after dealing with some unexpected adversity. That's a great sign for this team moving forward. And I thought Sam Pendleton at center just brought some attitude to the game. I thought he brought some real leadership. There was one little moment in this game. I don't know exactly what happened. I had the Ohio State game, a Texas game on my iPad, and I'm trying to sneak glances at it to see what's happening in that game. And at one point, I can't remember when it was during the game, there was like a little conversation with an official, and it looked like one of Tennessee's offensive linemen was a little heated and went to maybe trying to talk to the referee, and Pendleton kind of got him back out of the way, calmed down, and then he handled the ref in a just very mature way. And you could tell that they left kind of on a good note with each other. And it was just that small little thing like that shows me the leadership that you have to have out of that center position. That's been one of the biggest concerns moving on from Cooper Mays or losing Cooper Mays out of eligibility and starting your first center outside of, the times when Mays have been injured. That's the only guy that Heupel's had. So that was a big question mark with this team. I thought Pendleton played that role really well and set the tone for the entire offensive line.
Yeah, that was super encouraging. Yeah, as you said, you don't run that way without the offensive line playing well, and Pendleton, that pancake block that he had, that kind of went a little viral on Twitter that I saw. I mean, it was just awesome. You love seeing anything like that. It's great. I'm very interested to see how they stack against Georgia. Obviously, you're going from a middling ACC team to the best team in the country that you have to play against. That's always great. But yeah, everything with the offense outside of maybe the high throws and the drops from the wide receivers, pretty much everything was encouraging and gives me more hope than I probably had. I had a lot of hope because of just the stuff we heard in the preseason and that Joey was really ingratiating himself with everybody. That gave me a lot of hope, but this just really bolstered a lot of just going like, hey, we got some dudes here. And I think there's really something to be done. So that's cool. But with the defense, now we can kind of get into some of this injury news. I would just cover this up front. From the defensive line, Jackson Moy went out, three or four
snaps.
plays in?
He played 3 snaps.
3. Yeah, and he's Going to be out this week. It sounds like maybe be back for Georgia, which would be good. He put out a cryptic tweet that was a little concerning, and then he deleted it immediately. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see. They're obviously so close to the vest with all the injury news. The real concerning one, at least as of now, assuming that Jack Moy is not serious, is Ricky Gibson. According to Josh Heupel in his press conference today, after a quote extended period of time. Got to think 4-6 weeks when that's usually said, but literally God knows.
Yeah.
With Heupel, I mean it could be season ending. It's as far as like the lay public knows. Like it's all speculation essentially. I mean,
that's what Toddzilla says here.
comments.
Yeah, hype speak.
Yes, I mean it really is. Like as far as we know, it could basically be season. I really, really hope not. You need him badly. We'll see. But we've already kind of said it here. Ty Redmond played well.
Mm-hmm.
You got some pieces. And so there's that. Got ETSU a little bit of time to get healthy. And maybe Jerron McCoy comes back soon. I don't think it's going to be a Georgia game. Just doesn't feel like it. But maybe. I don't know what you think about the injuries.
The Gibson ones, I mean, Moy's a really good player on that defensive line and an important leader. Hopefully you get him back for the Georgia game. We'll see. Heupel seemed a little more optimistic with Moy's injury because he just said he'll be out this week. He didn't say anything beyond that. Gibson seems more concerning. Like you said, Heupel said an extended period of time. No clue what that means. He could be back in middle October. He might not play this year. And I have no reason to think that. Total speculation, but Heupel doesn't really give exact time frames on this kind of stuff. So we really don't know. We'll just have to see. And real quick, before I skip over, Clayton Smith mentioned Jordan Thomas that was hurt last year. Brent Hubbs mentioned before the season started when he was on with Ramon and Will on 104.5 The Zone that he doesn't think Jordan Thomas is going to play at all this season. It sounds like he's still on the roster. He's still with the team, but whatever that injury was, and I remember Hubbs saying that it wasn't his news to share, but whatever that Thomas went through with I guess it was ATL, there was more to it than just that. Like that, I guess there were some complications. Maybe he had to have a second procedure. I'm not sure, but it sounded like that was a little more difficult of an injury than we first thought. So who knows? I don't think that's somebody you can expect to see this season. But you said with Gibson, Ty Redmond coming in as a true freshman and giving you quality snaps in the season opener, he's going to be a really good player. That was a really good evaluation by Tennessee. I think he was a 3-star guy that wasn't rated very high. So you sign one of those guys and they play as a true freshman, you nailed that evaluation. That is a huge win for Tennessee on the recruiting trail. And then Colton Hood, a huge win in the transfer portal. Wasn't a huge name. Get him kind of late after Jerron McCoy gets hurt. He's played some really good ball for you. He scored a touchdown on the fumble. Huge play in the game. Really turned the momentum in Tennessee's favor. They didn't let go of that. So you've got good players there at the corner position. As you mentioned, McCoy should be back at some point soon, we hope. We don't know when, but that helps the depth there. But losing Gibson definitely hurts your depth, and it's tough. He's a good player, and you can never have enough cornerbacks. That's a tough position to play, and Tennessee's finally got some good ones, and luckily they have some depth. But, injuries are tough. I mean, they mount, and you just never know. You can't predict when they're going to happen. So that's kind of that variable that everybody has to deal with.
Looking on the bright side, Colton Hood was a dog as expected, which is really nice. That was good to see. Had the scoop and score. Randomly, Nate Robinson, not the old basketball player, but the defensive line for Tennessee, out of nowhere, strip sack there that led to Colton Hood picked it up and ran it into the end zone.
Yeah, Nate Robinson had a good game.
He really did, and he went down with something for an amount of time in that game, but it seems like he's gonna be fine. But there were good things that popped up for that defense, but on the whole, the defense, it's to break it down because I don't think they played bad overall. Definitely didn't play bad. They played below expectation. It is the first game of the year. And when you really dive into it, yes, it was below expectation. Also, 3 of the scoring drives, I think I'm having Jonathan Compton syndrome here. My Wi-Fi is going out. Three of the drives were, 3 or 4, had at least a long third down or a fourth down converted on them. And so you get some stops on fourth down, and the score of this game is 2 touchdowns better in your favor, and you just absolutely smash these guys. So there's nuance there, but you cannot overlook the fact that you are going to be going into Georgia with your top defensive backs out. Colton, good, but your top 2 guys out. And then maybe Jackson Moy out. And already a little bit. And maybe it's why am I blanking on his name on the defensive line? David Hobbs. Maybe you get David Hobbs back for that game. That would be good for depth.
Yeah, we'll see. I think he's in a walking boot still. It looked like.
Okay, yeah, probably not. Probably not.
I mean, we'll see.
Again, with hypo injuries, you just literally never know. But yeah, it's a little bit of patchwork defensive line. Your top 2 DBs, and you got to go play the best team in America, potentially the best team in America. So there's that. But if you're evaluating the defense on the whole, what do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I thought there was a couple times where Syracuse found some holes in the zone, some stuff on film that'll get cleaned up. I tweeted the clip yesterday of the play with Spillman and Boo Carter there. I think that was one of those fourth down plays where Spillman didn't get enough depth. Like Boo Carter kind of hesitated there. I'm not sure what his responsibility was in the zone, and it was just a little hole there, and it was a window, and Angeli made a good throw, the Syracuse quarterback, and made a play. And sometimes you just got to tip your hat and move on. And I think, like you said, some of that, sometimes the score can be misleading. I think they played better. I think the defense played better than what that score showed. Just a few moments where Syracuse made some plays and some things went their way, and they were able to put some points on the board. But that's stuff that I think you can clean up. Again, you're going to make a big improvement going from game 1 to game 2. You open the season against the Chattanooga. You don't have that stuff because you're just so much more talented, right? You open the season against the Syracuse, it's a little tougher because it's better talent than what you normally go against in some of these, FCS games. I'm not too concerned about it yet. I think you've got a lot of talent on this defense. I think Tim Banks and that staff has earned a lot of trust over the last 4 seasons with the improvements they've consistently made. So I think they'll get it right, and I think they'll be better moving forward. But the injuries are the biggest thing that they're going to have to overcome, I think.
Yeah, you just got to find a way next man up and make it happen. But the defense absolutely has potential. I mean, Steven said here in the comments. The defense should improve, continue to get better, and just lean into those strengths. Arian Carter, nasty dude, just like you thought he was going to be.
T-Lander made a great play on that interception too. So
yes,
linebackers are a lot better.
Yeah, linebackers looked good. Maybe don't necessarily have game-breaking speed, but it's so hard to just have all of that. You got to be such a freak to have everything in a linebacker like that. It's like you can either be a super strong, like, dog tackling everybody, or you can be the speedy guy. It's so rare to find everything there. But yeah, that all looks good. And the defensive ends just keep pounding away. 8 tackles for loss in this game, 5 sacks. Like, that's an unimpeachable number. That's a great game no matter how you slice it. So plenty there to build on, and that's fine.
That was some of the concern last season early, right? Like, you weren't getting the sack numbers against lesser competition. That's pretty big that you got 5 in this game. I think you lost some talent from that defensive line, right? Like James Pierce, Amari Thomas, like those are some Omar Norman Lott, NFL caliber players that you lost there, early round draft picks in Norman Lott and Pierce. And it feels like you still got playmakers, Joshua Josephs, Caleb Herring, guys that can get after the quarterback. And I think that's why I don't really have big concerns about this defense because I think they're going to be able to get the pressure that this defense needs to be successful. And with your talent in the secondary, even with Gibson hurt, even with McCoy out, you've still got really talented guys, like you said, Colton Hood and Redmond, the freshman, and Boo Carter, whenever he is more in a full-time role. I mean, his talent is undeniable, and as he gets into practice and practices with the first team, I think you're going to see him get better and better. I mean, that's obviously he missed time over the summer and wasn't with the first team a lot during fall camp, so you're kind of working him back into his full-time role. All the talent's there. I think this unit will be fine. I really do.
I think so too. Not overly concerned until I really and even if bad things happen against Georgia, don't have a meltdown. Then it's Georgia. Like that's gonna be a tough game, no matter what. And thankfully at home, for everybody's sake, that's good for Tennessee. That's most of the Syracuse game. I think. I mean, there's more to go into. That was kind of a high level take. What was also interesting on Saturday, I think you got to go into, is the remainder of the season for Tennessee has a little bit of a different, what's the word, reflection to it, whatever, I don't know, look to it after what happened on Saturday. Because, there's some Mississippi State pretty decent, and I don't want to give them too much, but this has been true since before the season. You got to really be careful about that against Starkville. But the big one, obviously, is that Alabama just looked soft as a baby's bottom out there and got dominated by Florida State. Like, that was unbelievable watching that, because I thought there was a possibility. Castellanos' kid is kind of a dog and was really talking his talk during the offseason and stuff. But, man, they got beat in the trenches. I mean, it's stuff that you would just never see out of a Saban team. And you were texting us, Zach, you were Craig in our group, but saying that it seems like DeBoer is more of a how'd you put it? More of a you say it.
We'll see what happens with Alabama and DeBoer. But from my view, what I've seen this first year of his tenure with Alabama and now starting his second season is it feels like they're so focused on the results more than the process. And that was Nick Saban's thing, right? Like process. It's all about the process. And I know that's just like people think it's cliche or just saying, but it's really true. Like you got to be day to day. Like today's Monday. You got to go win practice today. That's all it's about is this today. And it feels like DeBoer, just listening to him talk and his team talk, they're so focused on where the program's going, where it needs to go, how it needs to get there, all this stuff other than just the day-to-day, which is what I thought Saban was a master at. I think Kirby Smart's a master at. I think Josh Heupel's really good at it. There's a lot of coaches that are really good at it. It's a must. If you're going to be a championship team, that is a must. You got to have your team in the moment. You can't have them outside of that. To me, DeBoer it's like he's trying to be the Alabama head coach instead of just being Kalen DeBoer, who happens to be the head coach at Alabama. I think he's obviously a good coach because we've seen that at Washington in his past stops, Sioux Falls, wherever he was before that. He's a winner, but to me, you get into that Tuscaloosa, Knoxville's the same way. Any little SEC town, that you're under a microscope. There's a lot of pressure. You're following Nick Saban, that ratchets the pressure up even more. I feel like he's trying to be who people think the head coach at Alabama should be instead of just being him. And I've kind of thought that was going to be a problem from the start because you kind of got to go in and do it the Alabama way and the Nick Saban way. And this is what's worked the last 15, 20 years. So this is how you need to do it. And he's trying to balance that. It's tough. I'm not blaming him at all. I don't know many people that would thrive in that situation. I think everyone that's a fan of college football that's not an Alabama fan looking at it from the outside, looking in, thought this is how it would go for the first person that coached Alabama after Nick Saban. It was always going to be a really tough job. So I just don't think it's the right situation for that program to thrive. They got talent, but I just think they're all trying to live up to what Saban built there.
I liked, Ben Hall said it here. Said they play like a team that feels entitled to winning because a legendary coach used to coach there. They play like Nepo babies.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to put it, where it's just like, well, I'm wearing the crimson jersey. Why aren't we smashing everybody?
You ain't owed anything on Saturdays. And that was something that, after Josh Heupel was hired and some of those guys that had been at Tennessee under Butch and Pruitt said that Tennessee had too many guys that just were happy wearing the jersey. That was enough for them. They just wanted the jersey and to take the picture, and that has nothing to do with winning football games, right? And that's the tough part. That's why coaching's so hard. You got to get 100 players to buy into that, kind of day-by-day mentality, one day at a time, one play at a time, one rep at a time, and that's a tough thing to do.
I mean, you lost to Vanderbilt last year. You don't get anything handed to you anymore. When you lose to Vandy, I mean, as we always say on this show, nobody loses to Vandy at Tennessee and makes it out alive. I'm going to guess it's still early, but I'm going to guess that same thing stands true at Alabama too. Like that, you are nothing because Saban's gone. Like, that's not how that works.
How do you feel about that game now then? Tennessee.
So which Vandy or
Bama?
Alabama? So that's where I was leading with this conversation. That was October 18th. And so you saw like Mississippi State looked a little bit better than I thought they were going to against Toledo, whoever they played. Arkansas smashed a no-name. That was a nothing. I feel the same. But then Alabama's that next game. And I mean, you got to think that that's winnable now. I think it was winnable regardless, but you got to look at that and just be like, if we can really bring it on 2 lines of scrimmage and give these guys a hard time, like this is our game where we could go in and snatch one, especially if you end up not beating Georgia, which I think is more likely than not, unfortunately. You got to be looking at that Alabama game and that Florida game because Kentucky looked like trash. Oklahoma beat a no-name, don't really know. Florida beat a no-name, don't really play. Who they played? Long
Island? Didn't even know that was I had no idea.
Just, ridiculous. Vandy played no name, and they beat them. Their first sellout. I texted you yesterday. A good friend of mine has season tickets, and he said it was their first sellout for a non-SEC game that he ever remembers in his entire lifetime. Because every other sellout that's ever happened is due to the other team that plays Vandy, not them. It's like, congrats, I guess. I mean, I'm happy for you. That's good job. But Vandy. So otherwise we didn't learn a whole lot of anybody except Alabama. But yeah, I mean, you got to be looking at that one and just kind of saying, man, there's an opportunity there. Because Ty Simpson, boy, he just stunk out loud. Get to him in that game, and because that's what you did against dude last year. I'm blanking on his jalen Milroe. I mean, you got to him all long. They only scored 17 points in that game, and you won it. Even with the low output that you had in that one at 24 points, you were able to win it there. You didn't need 51 this time around. And it probably same will be true in that one. So that's an exciting prospect. I don't know how you feel about it.
I mean, I'm like you. I thought it was winnable before. I didn't pick them to win it just because they haven't won in Tuscaloosa since 2003. But after seeing that game, Heupel's teams, they've played well in Tuscaloosa their first 2 trips under Heupel. They just haven't been able to do it for 4 quarters. If they could put together a full 4-quarter game down there, I think you've really got some potential to win that game. If you can get up early, take the crowd out of it, I think that's a real potential for that to happen, especially depending on what happens here with Alabama over the next few weeks. But that's a weird situation. I'll be interested to see how that all unfolds at Alabama. I think there's real potential for that to go south and get real ugly. I don't know for sure that that's what's going to happen. Maybe they figure it out and they get back on track. I think we've all been watching college football long enough to know that you shouldn't overreact to week one because things change a lot throughout the season. But this is a roster full of kids who did not sign up for a rebuilding project, and it's a fan base who has no desire to go through any sort of rebuild or a down year or anything like that. So if they start losing games, that could be a situation that gets weird down there, and hopefully Tennessee can take advantage of that. There's been too many times over the last 15, 20 years that they haven't been able to take advantage of those situations with some of their rivals, specifically like Florida. So you don't want to see this one get away if that's the situation. But I mean, you take that A off of the logo and put them in different jerseys. That team is not one that stands out to me as a huge problem for Tennessee as of right now. So we'll see when that game gets here. Tennessee's got to, they got to get better too between now and then, and hopefully they do. But I think after this first week overall, I leave this Syracuse game and just looking at what happened across college football. Man, if you win some games that you're not supposed to, like that Alabama game, Florida game, and just have some good fortune, because I think that's part of it. You have to have that throughout the season, unless you're just a juggernaut of a roster, and there's really not one of those that I've seen yet in college football this season. To me, they have just as good of a chance as anyone to be one of these playoff teams as of right now. And I know that's not the consensus on Tennessee, but I mean, the roster has talent outside of the quarterback position, which was the big question mark. You looked at the rest of the roster, you're like, those are a lot of 4- and 5-star guys, like highly rated guys. And then the quarterback ended up playing better than the quarterback you had last season that took you to the playoff. Aguilar looked better in that game than Nico did at any point last season for an entire game. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand why everyone's so down on Tennessee, but it's a good thing for Tennessee. Fly under the radar and try to win some games and just see where this thing goes.
They are down on Tennessee, although you did your recognition. Defense Player of the Week in Colton Hood, and then Freshman of the Week with Braylon Staley. Little generous considering Braylon Staley's second-year guy, but still.
He's technically a little bit freshman.
That's true. It is true. But another kind of telling week coming up. Ole Miss plays at Kentucky. One that I'm really looking forward to, South Florida smashed Boise State. I mean, Alex Golesh is not messing around. I think he has a very bright future. Alex Golesh, I think that guy's in places, and it seems like he's put together a pretty formidable team this year at South Florida, and they go to Florida. So that is in Gainesville, which is tough, but I'm looking at that one. That's an interesting one. Maybe you learn a little bit about Florida in that one, Lagway. And then Michigan at Oklahoma. Going to be watching that one closely to see how Mateer plays, to see, they got that running back and the whole thing. Very interested to see how that goes, because Michigan didn't really play a great game over the weekend against whatever New Mexico State or whoever they played. Yeah, so some interesting ones. Vanderbilt versus Virginia Tech. I don't know. You'll learn a whole lot, although Virginia Tech gave South Carolina a pretty good game. Not as good as I wanted. I wanted Virginia Tech to win, but yeah, an interesting week coming up. But otherwise, that's it for the future, or looking down the pipeline for the season. Before we head out of here, Zach, we, of course, talk about this ETSU game. We're not going to break down ETSU. Next week, we will have a preview for that Georgia game for sure. But go look up ETSU's roster for yourself. I think we can just do a little score prediction here. Let's do at least say ETSU. Who did they play in week one? Let's see. ETSU football. They played Murray State, and they won 45-17. No slouch there. They smashed the Racers. But what are you thinking about this ETSU game, Zach?
I mean, I think the Vols will pull it out. I feel pretty confident in them.
They'll scrape by.
Yeah, no, it's home opener, mid-afternoon game, 3:30 start. I mean, this should be one that's fun for Tennessee fans and is over by the third or fourth quarter. you never know. Sometimes these teams come in, and we saw with Austin P a few years ago. That was one of the most frustrating games we've ever watched in the history of Tennessee football. That was a win against a team of that caliber. But yeah, I think Tennessee will cruise in this one and win pretty easily. Hopefully, you get some young guys a lot of work, keep everybody healthy. That's the biggest thing. Want to see some of these young receivers get into the game. I think Travis Smith is the only one that played against Syracuse. He only played like 5 or 6 snaps, 7 snaps, something like that. Wasn't a lot of action that he received. But I see some of these young receivers get a chance against ETSU. Those are guys you're going to need as we go through the season. I think it's unlikely that Brazel, Matthews, and Staley stay 100% healthy throughout the season. They're going to get banged up. It's just part of playing in the SEC. You're going to need that depth. So this is a good opportunity to get those guys some work, get some of the younger guys in the offensive line some more work. You got to build depth there too. It's the same thing. We've already seen it with Sanders missing some time and how you've had to shuffle things around. You're lucky you got a guy like Jesse Perry. Every team needs one of those guys, whether it's a high school team or an NFL team or a college team. You need a swing guy that can play guard, that can play tackle, probably play center if you needed him to in a pinch. I don't think they're going to ask him to do that, but that's a really valuable player to have in that Jesse Perry. But you need more depth behind him. And like I said, ultimately, just keep this team healthy going into Georgia.
Yep.
Don't play anybody unless you have to deep into the game. Get Mertlinger and McIntyre some action, because same thing with quarterback. You never know when they might have to come out for a series or a half. Concussion, kind of takes things out of your hand. If that happens, you want to get those guys some experience in this offense too.
Yeah, interested to see David Sanders, and so I'm not sure it's going to be his more formidable test, but hopefully he can come back as it's kind of looking like he's going to, and get to see him there. Yeah, not expecting a ton of fireworks in this one. Hopefully Aguilar's out in the middle of the third quarter. ETSU does have I saw Will Healy as their head coach. This guy that was at Austin P for a while, and I think he's another guy. I think he's got a future. And it's fun. Play school out of Johnson City, just right down the road. But yeah, keep everybody healthy. Don't let this be some kind of nonsense game. Nothing pisses me off more than when teams try to get cute in games like this. And I mean the opposing team. So ETSU, do not come in here and try to play games and do everything that Austin P guy did. Just so annoying. Just let it be the scourge of sorts that it is. And let's move on to the Georgia game. I'll give it a score prediction. Just we got to be on the record here. I mean, man, you scored 45 in this one already against Syracuse. What would it be? Say 50, 52. Is that right? 50, 40, 42, 48. That's 55. You just score all touchdowns. 55 to 10. That'll be my final there.
55 to what? What was it?
55-10.
Yeah, I think somewhere in that range. I might go 56-14. They have ETSU has I don't know who their starting quarterback is. I know they got two guys that came from power conferences. Cade McNamara, the old Michigan quarterback, Iowa guy quarterback, is there.
Yeah,
you got some talent there, and you know how these kind of the games get late in the game. You put your third string defense in. ETSU still has their starters in. They score a couple touchdowns, so I go 56-14.
And Cade McNamara, friend, say this in our group texts. He said that Cade McNamara was the guy that took over for Joe Milton at Michigan when Joe Milton got benched. Michigan. That's how long this guy's been around. So he's been in college football for a little while.
Crazy. It's 2025, and you're still like pre-COVID guys playing somehow.
Seriously. Man. Well, good times. So there's some score predictions for you. As I mentioned, we will be back next week with the full preview of the Georgia game. Usually those those shows end up going a little bit longer. This one did because of you got to review the game that you just played, plus do the full preview of the next game. Man, that's a big one. That Georgia game is just ready to see what happens there. We've said it all off season. I mean, if Joey came in and won that game, just the kind of legend that he would be if you figured out a way to beat Georgia in that spot. Oh, it would just be crazy. But we'll talk about it. Anything else for the folks before we bounce out of here, Zach?
Yeah, just because of the comments here, I think we can all say that the Nico decision after week 1 is, I mean, it's up there for the worst decision in the history of college football players to leave. From Nico's side of it, it worked out well for Tennessee so far. We talked about Aguilar, but I mean, Nico going from that situation where he was making more money with more talent in a place you want to play college football, the SEC. I mean, it's the best. You know, I know you went to the Big Ten. There's some really good football in the Big Ten too. I'm not trying to act like it's terrible or anything like that. Your last 2 champions came from there, but you went to UCLA in a place that doesn't really care about college football at all. So the atmosphere is just, it's okay at times, I guess, if you're good. I mean, there wasn't that many fans there. You know, we saw the photos from the game Saturday night with not much talent around you, with a new OC, a Sinceri at that. Tino Sinceri is, you know, Sal Sinceri, old Tennessee defensive coordinator that ruined one season for the Vols. I mean, just an absolutely disastrous situation from top to bottom. There's not one part of that decision that makes sense. Dumb. Just dumb across the board. Worked out well for Tennessee so far. I don't think this is going to work out for Nico. It's not a good system for him. There's not a lot of talent there. He didn't look comfortable. You know, if he wanted to leave Tennessee, he should have left in December and found himself a better situation. That's just objectively, like, that would have been the best case for him. And Tennessee came out on the better end of this, I believe.
I mean, that's really tough, but sorry about it. You got to live with the decisions that you make, and here we are. It is tough. That's kind of been the narrative that I've seen on the national. They're just like, man, that's brutal. That's what that kid did. But
yeah, I mean, ultimately, you know, he's responsible for his own decisions. But you know, we don't think that this is the way he saw things going when the season ended last year. But sometimes you got to take control. I mean, it's your career.
I think that's a show. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan. Thank you to everybody who tuned in, commented, hung out with us. I think it could be a fun season. I'm really, not that I didn't think that. College football season is always just the most fun. But this, Alabama lost. You won. The Nico thing is hilariously bad. And here we are. And so great start to the season. Excited to see what's going to happen. That is all. Thank you again for watching. We could not do it without you. That's pretty much it. We will then I always mean to say this earlier in the show. Halftime postgame. Myself, Jonathan Crompton, we were on it for the Syracuse game. But tune in here on the A to Z Sports Tennessee Volunteers YouTube channel, and me and Crump will be on there talking about the ETSU game. Breaking it all down. He'll give his take. Maybe his internet will work better this week. He lives up in the mountains, and you can tell. I would put it that way. But tune in there because his internet has worked better on other days, and we'll hang out there. So thanks again, and we will talk to you next week.
See you guys later.